Oh, I know. Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Hello, hello. You guys, this is my first live. I'm Kimberly Hine. Great to see you. Do you guys recognize me? Hi, everybody. Thank you. Oh, good. Thank you, Keely. Heather. Laura, good morning. Or good morning. Good evening. Thank you, Roberta. Diana, thank you. You guys, I needed to just go back to my roots, you know? No pun intended. You know, my roots. You know. Hi, Carolyn. Hello, hello. Hi, Diane. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome. Good to see you guys. Thank you, Mary. Hello, Natalie. Thank you. Thank you. I know, Diane. Diane says I almost didn't recognize you. I know. That's why I was like, oh, maybe I'll come on and be Kim. Because she has dark hair like this. And so I actually, I think I look a lot like her now. So I thought that would be kind of funny. It's Jane. I recognize the voice. Thanks, Trish. Hi, everybody. Hi, Nancy. Nancy, didn't realize it was you. I know. I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is this person? Melissa got happy mail. Oh, yay! I'm so glad you got it. Awesome. Hello. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. So cool. Hi, Natalie. Roberta, the color makes your skin glow. Really? That's what I'm hoping for. I needed something to warm me up a little bit, you know? I felt like the lightness was kind of washing me out. And, you know, things change and you're like, does the color suit me anymore? Like, I really like it still. I loved it. But I just thought, you know, something a little bit more natural I'm kind of feeling. And then I thought, oh, I'll just wait till fall. And I can, you know, kind of try something new for fall. Patricia got your teacup. Yay! Absolutely. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Mary. She said I didn't know who it was at first. I know. It's funny. I was like, I'm going to get on Facebook Live and nobody's even going to know who it is. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you. Oh, Sherry, thank you so much. You guys, it's so kind of you. I appreciate it. You know, when you do a big change, you're like, am I gonna like it? Because I was blonde for so long, and I'm like, I just, you know, maybe try something new, and then you're just like crossing your fingers that it looks good, you know? Thanks, Rosalie. Robin, thank you. Yay, you got your teacup. Awesome. Thanks, Anne. Deanna, yay, you got yours too. Nancy's arrives tomorrow. Very cool. You guys, welcome, welcome. Thank you, Paula. I'm so happy to be here with you. I hope that you guys saw the little monochromatic cards that we're gonna make today. As I was thinking through, you know, what I wanted to do tonight, I just thought, like, why don't we do something that, you know, that we've maybe done before, but in like a sepia tone or a sepia tone, however you want to say it. I just thought it might be kind of fun to change it up a little bit. It sort of reminded me of a like watercolor photo filter. I just thought that was kind of funny, and I was like, why don't we do some monochromatic colors? And so we can yeah, try those out. I'm seeing your comments. Hi, Pam. Pam was confused. Don't worry, it's still me. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Carol. Okay. Carol made background papers using the fairy garden set. Awesome, Carol. I'll have to go check those out if you posted them. Lynn, your beautiful brown eyes are amazing. I think they're really happy with your color. Thank you. You're so very sweet. Thank you, Lynn. Ruth Ann, hello, newbie girl. I know. I am a newbie girl. I know. Isn't it weird? Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, who is this looking back at me? It's so bizarre. So, okay, you guys, let me show you what we're making today. And one of them I did want to keep kind of like Thanksgiving, fall themed, even though the color is a little bit, you know, sort of not necessarily fall related, the pink. And so we're going to do this little guy. And I just thought it was fun. You know, something traditional with something less traditional. And so we're going to make this guy. And I hope, am I kind of fuzzy on there? I look a little bit fuzzy for some reason. And then we're also gonna make this little monochromatic deer, which is not fall, but I thought it would be really fun with the blue. So we're gonna make this little guy as well. And I'm gonna show you the images that I'm using. Oh, you know what? I don't have my little stand. I'm like, something's missing here. And it's my little stand. Like, what is going on? Okay, so I am going to show you what stamp sets we're going to be using really quickly. There are quite a few sets that I'm using just because I was kind of grabbing and going, but a lot of these have substitutes that you can use, and I'll definitely share that with you as we kind of go through the project. And let me see here. I need a piece of watercolor paper. That one has something on it. Okay, so as we go through this, I will definitely share with you the different substitutions that you can use. So don't worry that, you know, we're using a lot of different sets. Definitely we'll share with you, you know, I might be using a vine. Well, you could use a different vine. You could use the original vine, or you could use the mini vine. I will be using a little branch. You could use a lot of little branches. So I'm going to show you exactly what I'm using, but definitely be creative, change it up if you don't have it. I always say that. If you don't have something, just grab something else and make do. It doesn't, you know, just because I use a branch, you know, doesn't mean you have to use that same one. So I definitely want you guys to kind of start thinking about, like, creatively, you know, dip back into that creative thinking process that sort of got you here in the first place, and be like, okay, what can I use? Or if I don't have that color, what can I use? Or I don't like pink, maybe I'll do it in green or gold or orange or whatever you want to do, okay? Orange and brown even you can do, because a lot of the browns are really warm, and you know, it can really mix nicely with the orange, and you can kind of still keep that orange monochromatic going. And I'll show you a little sample of the orange monochromatic after we finish, okay? So with that being said, I am going to, thank you, Wanda. I'm gonna go ahead and just flip us around, and we'll go ahead and start in on our project, and we'll do the pink one first, okay? So, and hopefully that will give you guys enough time to kind of grab the things that you need to use. I apologize, I meant to sort of show you that earlier, but I'll get it eventually. Okay, here we go. We are going to flip around and get situated on the stand And now we're gonna show you, I'll show you what I'm using here, okay? So we'll start with the pumpkins first. I feel like if I show you every single set, you'll feel a little bit overwhelmed, okay? So if you're doing the pumpkins with me, I am using the tractor set, the watercolor harvest. Now, if you have the other set with the pumpkin in it, the veggie set with the pumpkins in it, you can definitely use that one instead. You don't have to have this set, okay? And then also I'm using this little guy, this leaf right here from Watercolor Foliage Set 4. This one will also be used in, just this one. So Watercolor Foliage Set 4, this little branch in the center. And then for the flowers at the bottom, I'm going to be using this little guy. This is from Watercolor Flower Set 2, but you could easily use the Daisy Bunch from Flower Set 1. Okay, you could easily grab that one. From the Watercolor Fall Set, I'm using these little berries, and I love these because they have the mirrored image. I'll just be using one for this, but if you're doing a wreath or anything like that, this is so, so nice to have both of these, okay? And then, of course, I'll be using the little dots from the Bible Foliage Set 2, which I love, love, love. That's the Bible Foliage Set 2. Look at how wonderful these foliages are. I love them. And then Foliage Set 1, the teeny tiny grass. So that's what I'm going to be using for this project. Of course, grab the substitutes if you need to, okay? You don't have to have this exact thing. And if you don't have the pumpkins, just grab another stamp. Grab a cat, grab a dog, anything, okay? And then for the little fawn, I am going to grab this little guy and show you. For the little fawn, I'll be using the fawn from the Watercolor Mini Critter Set, the Watercolor Large Tree Set, just this foliage right here. Now you could use a lot of different things for that, okay? So this one here. If you just have Foliage Set 1, this one, you could just use a little bit of this for that if you want to, okay? If you don't have the tree set. And then I'm using the teeny tiny grass and this vine right here. I'll also use the dots from the Bible Foliage Set 2. And I think that's it. All right. If you guys have questions, of course, ask. I will definitely be sharing, as I go, which stamps I'm using and what colors, so that you guys can follow along if you want to. Totally up to you. Okay. So let me just grab my little palette here. I had a bunch of ink on it before, so I'm just going to quickly give that a little bit of a wipe. We won't need a lot of ink from our palette, so I'm just going to be using it, sparsely. Okay. I am first going to do this little cute monochromatic pumpkin. Now, monochromatics are so fun because you can do any project with monochromatics. I actually had a lot of fun sort of finding ways to make this or have fun with monochromatics, because they did remind me of photo filters. And there are apps on your phone that you can take a photo that, maybe you take outside or whatever, and then you put a filter on it, and that will actually help you, come up with a project for the monochromatics. If you need a little bit of inspiration, you can totally do that. It's really fun. You can do any of the projects that we've ever done using monochromatic color, okay? It just kind of adds a little bit something extra. So I'm going to take my watercolor paper, and I really like using the smooth side lately. You can use either side, but I feel like the smooth side just sort of showcases the image a little bit better than the textured side for what I'm doing. Hi Mary, good to see you. And I'm gonna first take my little pumpkins. So I've got my pumpkins here, and the pumpkin that's gonna be in the front is going to be stamped first, and then the pumpkin, the other pumpkin is gonna be stamped second. So I'll go ahead and, actually I want the smaller one in front. So I'm gonna take number 969 and go ahead and ink some of this pumpkin. Now I'm not gonna color the whole thing with the brown. I'm gonna come in then and color a little bit with 837, and this is that really dark, beautiful, rich kind of wine red. So 837, and this I'm gonna go over the whole thing, even over the brown that I just did. Now, when you use two colors, you do want to stamp off because it can get really heavy really fast. So I'm going to grab my little practice paper and stamp one time. Then I'll take that little guy and just very gently stamp him down, okay? And Cheryl, I just received my last order. Thanks for including example pictures of the fairy garden. I love that set. Can't wait to try it. Oh, Cheryl, of course. I'm so glad. I forget who came up with the idea, but it was brilliant. I was like, yeah, I gotta figure this out. So I was totally happy to do it and appreciate that person who was so creative to, you know, have that suggestion. Okay. Now I'm gonna go again, 969. And just color some of that. I want to do more of that 837 now. This is a lot like when we color with the blue and the brown, but we're using the brown and this 837 red, and it helps it to kind of weigh it down a little bit, these colors. So I'm going to just kind of, oops, I forgot to stamp off. That's okay. Normally I would stamp that off, and right as I went down on the paper I remembered, but you know, we kind of just work with what we do. Okay, now I'm going to take a second piece of paper, my little masking paper, and put that over the top. Whoops, I got a little color on there. That's okay. Put that right over the top of my pumpkins so that I can stamp in the background of this, okay? First, I'm going to take my little leaves, and I can zoom in right now just to give you a better view. I'm going to take my little leaves and use number 837 for this. I'm going to go over everything. 837, which is that really beautiful dark red. And then 725, which is a really bright pink. And I'm just gonna go over the dark red just on some of these leaves. I'm not gonna color all of them bright pink, but I do want that bright pink on some of them. Now I'm gonna stamp this over the pumpkins and just kind of get this little leafy look sort of behind the pumpkins. And if you need to huff on it to get a few more, you can do that. Okay, and maybe I'll do one more darker little leaf back here in the background. So I'll just color this with the 837 again. And I don't want it super, super dark. So I'll just re-ink a couple of these with the pink. I don't want this super dark, so I am gonna stamp it off just one time, just to get that darkness off of it. And then I'll stamp one right in there, just for a little bit more dimension. But isn't that pretty? I love these two colors combined. I think They're just gorgeous. All right, then I'm gonna take my little berry branch here, and on the berries, I'm going to ink with that 725, but before I do, I want to just color a little bit on my paper and get the 837 off of the tip, so that when I color on the berries, it's going to be that true 725. And then 837 on the branches, or the little stems. Now you can stamp these kind of wherever you want to. Maybe I want one to kind of come up in here. Maybe a couple berries there. You can really put these wherever. Okay. This is just sort of behind. So if you want to have a couple more, you put them where you want to. Okay? And it's always going to look a little bit different every time you do it. This is a really fun assembly line project. If you had, you know, a few cards you wanted to make for somebody, or you wanted to give them, you know, a gift of 5 thank you cards, this is a really good, easy project to do for assembly line cards, because it's really straightforward and you don't have to overthink anything. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and take off the mask like that. And I've got my 2 little pumpkins. And I will take my brush. I'm going to use the number 4, but I will have, I will use number 1 a little bit in the pumpkins, just because the number 1 has been so nice to use on the smaller elements. So I'm just going to wet my brush really quickly, get the air bubbles out like we always talk about, and just begin to sort of pull out some of this color from the lines on the pumpkins. And you can see I put some of that red in and some of that brown in, and you can see the color when I start pulling it out. Nothing is straight brown, right? It's always got a little tinge of that red in it, which is what we want. We don't want anything but a color that has red or pink, because that's what we're going for, our monochromatic. All right, I'm going to take the 725. And then also that 837. Let me just sort of back out a little bit here. Whoa, I'm like really close. 837. Okay. And I will take first a little bit of that 725 and I'll mix it just a bit with that 837. Just a little bit. And begin to place this into my pumpkin. Okay. And then once again, we'll do that same thing and come around for the front pumpkin. And you know, you can have different ratios in these colors and have your pumpkins look a little bit different if you want to. I had them pretty similar on the original, but you can totally change it up and make one of them darker, one of them lighter if you want to, one of them more pink and one of them more red. Totally up to you. Okay, so I'm going to go back in with that 837, mostly 837 now, and I want to start building my shadows in the base. So I'm going to build the shadows down in the bottom. And I like when the colors, I mean, I don't really mind when the colors, you know, kind of end in more of a harsh line. If you don't, you can take just a wet brush. You can see I have no color on here. And you can go back and forth over these lines and just blend out a little bit of the harshness that you don't love. So you see how I'm just blending out really lightly, going over this. Same thing over here. If I don't like this, because I know some of you guys comment, oh, I can't get it to look smooth, like a smooth transition. You just take your wet brush, I mean, I don't even want to say wet, it's more damp. It's not wet. But then you kind of go back and forth over that line, and do you see how it smooths it out? It just makes it so much smoother. If you are going for a smoother look, that's kind of the way you'll get it. Okay, 837 again. And just as the color dries, I can come back in and just keep layering that color. And just layer that color. Again, if I want to just blend this in, I can take just a little bit of water, just dampness on my brush, and smooth those lines out just a touch. Carla, pink, my fave color. I know, I love pink too. I was like, what's a not fall color? Pink. So let's do, like, I like the, you know, the fall theme without the fall color. Just kind of fun. Although I guess pink can be any season, you know, depending on how you use it. Okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of that mix again, the 725, and a little bit of the 837. And it's okay whatever ratio you use. There's no right and wrong way to do this. But I just want to add a little bit into the stem, and I will darken the stem up a little bit, especially, you know, where the shadows are. Carla says, I love what people are doing with turquoise and teal too. Oh, how cute would this be in turquoise? Yes, I totally agree. This would be so cute in turquoise. Okay, I'm gonna let my pumpkins dry just a little bit before I come back in. And so what I can do as I wait is bring out, oh, Trish, good point. I like it for breast cancer awareness. Would love the pink pumpkins. Trish, that's a great idea. I'm gonna send you this because I just love that idea. So Trish, you're getting the pink pumpkins. Okay, but I will still give away the little fawn. So, you know, there's also another pink pumpkin. So if you want either of them, I'll give away both pink pumpkins. You can just leave it in the comments that you would like one of these, okay? And if you have a preference about which one, just let me know. But Trish, you'll get one of these pumpkins for sure. Good point, good idea. Melissa, I agree, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Very cool, okay. So I'm gonna take my brush, just a little bit of water, and I'm just gonna dab these like we would with any of our green compositions, right? We just kind of go in and, you know, we're not too careful about the leaves, but I do want to leave a little bit of, you know, the differentiating color in the leaves. And so I don't want to go too much, but I do want to sort of, you know, break up that stampiness that you can see sometimes in leaves like this. Okay. Now for the little berries, you can kind of leave these if you want to. I do add just like a teeny bit of water to them just to kind of break up the harshness. And then I'll generally go back in with the tip of my pen and darken them up again, okay? So as these are still kind of drying, I want them really dry when I go back in for, you know, the shading and everything. So I am going to kind of just leave those there for now. And let's put in some flowers next to the pumpkins. Jerry, 26-year breast cancer survivor. Oh my word. Girl, you're getting the other pink pumpkin. All right, pink pumpkins are spoken for. Jerry and Trish, you guys are getting the pink pumpkins. Now you can still put your name in. I normally don't do that, you guys. I normally don't pick on the spot, but sometimes something in me is just like, you need to just choose on the spot. So the pink pumpkins are spoken for, but I will still have the blue fawn up for grabs, okay? All right, so now I'm gonna take my little, I'll do my little pink 725 for flowers, okay? 725. So I'm going to take these cute little flowers from the flower set. Let's see, which one was that? I put all my, let's see, this was flower set. Of course, it's probably going to be on the bottom. Watercolor flower set 2. Now you could use any of the flowers for this, okay? So just, you can even close your eyes and choose. Whatever you want to do, just choose a flower. I just chose these because they were kind of heart-shaped and I just thought they were so cute. And I'm going to put these sort of in front of the pumpkins right there. Okay. Vicky Teal pumpkins would be so cute. Yes! Yes, yes, yes. I love that idea. Yes, I totally agree. All right, and then the grass. So we have our pink flowers, and then the grass I'm going to do in the 837. So 837, you know, you can also do this with 2 different colors if you want to. You know, you can use just blue and green or just purple and blue. It doesn't have to be, you know, just pink or just red or just blue, but it's just a lot of fun to pick a sort of a family, so all the pinks. So I can go from, you know, really dark pink, which almost looks red, and then I can go to really light pastels, and I'm allowed all of those pinks to go into my composition if I want to, okay? It's really fun to sort of challenge yourself in that way too. So I've got my little grass here, and I'll put some sort of in the center. And I'm just keeping the grass at that 837. And I'm stamping in sequence. So not only am I stamping multiple times, but they are touching each other. You know, this is something I like to show every so often. If you stamp your grass in a sequence, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly this sequence. You can stamp it, you know, you can stamp it in a little, you know, a little knoll or something, whatever you want. But if you stamp it separately like this, it looks very stampy, right? This looks very, very stampy. And what we want to avoid, you know, that stampy look. We want it to look like a, you know, a traditional watercolor, which is very, it's very smooth. It's, you know, connected. It doesn't look stampy. And to kind of avoid that stampiness, if you connect them and then stamp in sequence at least 5 times so you get that dark and light variation, that will take you a long way, okay? Now I'll take I'm going to use my little brush for this, and it's the number 1. And I'm going to pull out, first I'll add a little bit of water to my flowers just right at the top. And it's okay that they're kind of you know, next to the foliage, that's fine. Just kind of ink that, and then I'm getting that pure pink color, you know, sort of right on top of that grass. And then I can do my teeny tiny brush and really pull up some of this grass. Now I like to go right through the pumpkins because you're gonna see, you know, grass is gonna grow right in front of anything, you know, it'll grow kind of anywhere. So we're just gonna pull out some of that color right in the middle as well. And I'm gonna pull that straight up and out. You see how it comes right over that pumpkin? And then on this side too. So using that really small brush, you can get these really tiny, really dainty wisps of color sort of coming through the other elements that you've placed in your composition. Okay, so you're still remembering all the, you know, the tips and tricks that you know. You still have to leave your highlights. You still want to have your shadows. All we're doing is replacing one color with another color that's going to fit into our composition, okay? So in this case, pink. All right, now I'm going to put some a little bit of color down at the bottom. This is mixed with these two colors, just a bit of each. And I want to just kind of put a little bit of a shadow down in here. And I'm using that really tiny brush still. So I'll kind of grab again. And I am kind of grabbing a little bit of that brown from the pumpkin, and that's absolutely fine. As long as it's mixed with that red, you know, that really nice 837, it's going to still look red. It's still going to fit the composition really well. All right. Now let's add a bit more shading into our pumpkins. Now, do you kind of see why I waited a little bit? Because I want these pumpkins to really blend in with the grass and with the flowers. Had we put really, really, really dark shadows into the bottom, you would see that sort of popping through a lot more than it is right now. So to kind of avoid that, we can put in our shadows and everything kind of more toward the end after those little things are already placed. So we can take that 837, because this is really our shadow color now, right? That 837, it's a really nice shadowy color. And then again, just water, and I can blend that right out. Just make it sort of melt into the rest of the composition. A little bit more of that 837. I think I grabbed a bit of pink in there too. That's okay. I mean, it's pink, right? So it really doesn't matter how much of that you do. Whatever your ratios are, it's right, as long as you're still just using those colors that you picked out. You know, for in our case, the 837 and the 725 are the main colors in our composition. A little more 837 going into the base of this pumpkin. I'm sorry, the base of the pumpkin stem. Okay. And now I'm going to take that 837 again. This is so nice. This detail tip is great when you want to put some darker shadows in, but the area is really small. It's nice to have this little guy because you can just kind of come in and put these deeper shadows in. Maybe I'll put a little shadow down in here. And then across here. Okay, that guy's sort of behind. And actually this sort of is in front. I think that little guy sort of washed out a bit. That's okay. I'll just put the line back in. Okay. Sometimes that happens and, you know, it's not a big deal. You just take it and put it right back in. I'm just very lightly softening those lines that I just put in. Just very lightly. Okay. Deborah has never done this. Oh, girl, are you gonna do it? You should definitely do it. It's so fun. It's really a fun project because, especially if you haven't done it before, it really makes a big difference when you, you know, you normally color something and then you color it in a totally different way. It changes, it almost changes the stamps in your eyes because you're like, oh my word, that's so not what I envision, right? Oh goodness. I love this project, you know, watercolor stamping, because you really do get these really unique compositions. A lot of times you don't even mean to, you know, it just sort of happens and you're like, oh, that was a kind of a surprise. All right, so I'm going to take that 725 and I'm just going to put it into just a couple of these little berries. And you can do as much or as little as you want. You can put them on all or some. It's just sort of nice to kind of make them stand out a little bit. Kind of like that. And then take my little tiny number 1 and just blend those out because I don't want them to look harsh. I just want them to look like, whoa, those are really bright berries. And the dots are coming and I don't want to, you know, confuse the little dots for the berries, you know. And I sort of lost my line here. So I'll just put a little bit more in there. This number 1 brush is great for stuff like that. Okay, so we have to have our sky, right? So I'm going to take a little bit of both colors again. And I'm going to put in, so when I do my sky, I want to remember that right now my composition is sort of an oval shape, right? So we want to keep the sky in an oval shape. If I take the sky up really far, like up in here and over and all around, I'm going to lose my oval shape. So I can keep the sky kind of in the center. I could probably bring a little bit around here. But if I go much further than like this top berry, if I try to go over the berry, I'm going to lose my oval. And I really want to keep that oval because that's what makes this composition look really pleasing to the eye. Is because the eye really likes things to be compartmentalized. And if one of the aspects doesn't sort of fit in with everything else, you're going to immediately be like, oh, there's something about it I don't like. And it's because that one element doesn't fit in with everything else. It doesn't fit in the circle that your eye has made, okay? So you want to keep your sky in that circle. And if you're not sure, you can always take your hands and do something like this and be like, okay, I have to have it in this circle. I can't go past my hands. Or you can take a little die, you know, something like a little die like this. And I can say, okay, nothing can go outside of this little die. And if you have to do lines or whatever, you don't want to go outside of this little die, okay? So that's always what helps me when I'm thinking about a composition. You know, where does my sky go? Where should I put things? You definitely want to, you know, keep things cohesive, and in, you know, an oval is very, very pleasing to the eye, okay? So let's go ahead and mix a little bit of that 725 and a little bit of the 837, okay? So I'll take that 725, a little bit of the 837, and I need a bit more water here, because I want it to be nice and loose, okay? So 825, a little bit of the 837, and this is for my sky. So I'm gonna come in and remembering that, you know, I need to stay within my little die. You know, I can just kind of keep that there if I want to, and just sort of move this color around. And I don't want to go all the way up to this. I just kind of want to keep it just as a guide for me, okay? 725, 837, mix it up again, and come back in. So I don't want to go over those berries. I just kind of want to keep everything close. Do you see how I'm sort of keeping it all in here, all inside of the die? And don't mind all the little, you know, tape and stuff on here. Okay, and then I can come around here a little bit. Sort of keeping in mind, you know, I don't want my sky to fight with my leaves. So I want to keep it nice and light. The leaves will be darker. So this can stay nice and light. My die is sort of getting in the way. So I'm just going to blend out that sky and keep my sky in this area. Okay? And as long as it's in there, I'm good. All right, maybe just a little bit more color, sort of right in that center area, just to make it pop. I've got something happening here. A little fuzz of some sort. Okay. All right, so we have our little pink sky in here, and we have been successful in sort of keeping our, you know, oval shape, which is really what we wanted to do. We kept that nice oval shape there because we know that that looks really good to the eye, okay? And I'm gonna take my Twintone here. This is a dark brown, but it does have a warm tinge to it. And what I'm going to do is just really darken up a little bit of these areas here. You won't even be able to tell it's brown because that 837 actually has a lot of brown in it. And it will kind of mix in with that 837 and you won't even know that it was a Twintone. Okay. And you can kind of bring some of these over if you want to. You don't have to, if you feel like it's not quite close enough. And then we want to put in our dots, right? Our cute little dots. I love these dots. I think they're so fun. I put them in, you know, if you've been following me for a while, you know, I put them into everything. So 837. And I'm going to color that with that 837. And I'll stamp off a couple times just to see, you know, I like to start kind of lighter and then come back in with the darker dots if I need them. A lot of times I don't need them, so I'll just sort of place these in here. Sometimes I want just like a few really light ones, you know, out on the periphery. And then I'll just turn this and put a few of these in here. Don't be afraid to put them, you know, on the actual pumpkins. Maybe we want to do a couple more in here. Isn't that fun? I just love this. And then you can grab a white gel pen. And this is just a gel pen I had on hand. So I'm just going to kind of get it going. And then I like to just take this gel pen and put a little bit of a white line right on the edge of that pumpkin. Right over the top. I just think it's kind of cute. It's not absolutely necessary. I just think it's cute to sort of have. It adds more dimension to your pumpkins. Okay. And then maybe I'll put a little one here. All right. Cheryl, we don't sell the dot by itself. You can only get it in that Bible foliage set. Natalie, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Julie, the dots are my new favorite stamp. How does something so small make such a difference? I know. I'm laughing because I know. I love the dots just so much. The dots are just so fun. Okay, now we of course have to sign this with our little, I'm going to sign it with my little Twintone. And although it's brown, it does blend in really well with our pumpkins, okay? So that is the little monochrome pumpkin little guy. And then we're also going to play with this little guy. Okay, and this is our little monochromatic fawn laying in maybe a little meadow or something. So we'll learn how to do this little guy. And for these colors, I am just using these two blues, the 528 and the 565. Now you can use 526, which is a common color we use for the sky, and that would be equally as beautiful, okay? But for this one, I grabbed for the 528 and the 565, both of which are on the website if you don't have them, okay? All right. So I'm going to take a little piece of watercolor paper, and I used some Post-it tape, and I just reused it. So you can reuse this Post-it tape all you want to, okay? So I'm going to use that again, or I guess I should say until it, you know, loses its adhesive quality. But I just made a little square, so I know some of you will ask. And this square is, it's just a little over 2 inches by, I guess it's not a square, by about 1 3/4 inches. Okay, so it's a rectangle. All right. I'm gonna take my little fawn first, and I'm gonna color this using that 565. Okay, 565, and I'll just color him. This needs to be stamped off. So I'm gonna stamp off once, see how dark that is? And now that I've already colored the feet, whoops, I do want this little guy to blend more into the grass. So what I'm gonna do is actually just take a little bit of masking tape and put that down, because I don't want his feet to be showing entirely, because I want him to be buried in the grass. And actually, let's bring this down a little bit more. It feels really high. Okay, so you can see I took the little back foot off. by just stamping over the masking tape. And that's a really good, you know, sort of trick to use if you don't, you know, you don't want to color the whole thing, or you did color the whole thing and you didn't mean to. You can just use a little bit of masking tape and, you know, sort of take off that bottom bit so that the grass isn't going to be fighting with these lines, okay? I'm going to use my little brush for this and start sort of pulling out the color on this little guy. So I'm going to use my tiny brush, and this is so great for this sort of project, you know, the really tiny little details. It's so helpful. Okay. So we'll kind of move along here and just be pulling out the shadows. I know there's going to be shadows in his ears. Just a reminder that number 1 brush, okay, is what I'm using. And I have a little shadow in here for his leg. All right, and we're not going to do all the shading on this guy quite yet, but we're just going to give ourselves kind of a nice, you know, guide to go with once we start coloring in more. Okay. Deneen, is it because you know the stamp so well you can do it without the stamp positioner, or is there a trick? For this one, it doesn't really matter where he sits. If he were sitting like on top of a box or something, I would 100% use a stamp positioner. But because he's just kind of laying in the grass, I don't have to think, you know, too much about how he's sitting or where he's sitting. So I was pretty comfortable just going in, you know, just by eye and stamping him right in the center. But yeah, I would definitely use a stamp positioner if I needed him to be like in a specific spot. Good question. And then the masking tape was just kind of there to, you know, cut off that bottom bit that I forgot to, you know, not color. Okay, so I'm going to take my, bye Paula. I'm going to take my little branch here and color this using the 565 as well. So this little branch, and actually I don't think I grabbed out the set for that one, but it's just the branches set. And I'll take my branch and just stamp it off one time. And then we'll take that and put it right into our composition. Kind of hanging over him a little bit. All right. Let's move in with our grass. And I'm going to use that number 528 for our grass. Notice I'm sort of jumping around because I really want this branch to dry really nicely. I want this color to dry nicely, so I went to the branch and now I'm coming back down here. So, you know, I do that on purpose to let the colors dry before I move on in that section, okay? So I'm going to take this light blue and just kind of nestle him in to this grassy area here. And I'm still using, you know, the stamping off method, okay? So you want to connect them all up so you get to that dark and light variation, and then you can get that nice sequence out of it, okay? And before we add water, we will go up to the branch now and put in some of our leaves. Now, this is really, really fun because I use both colors, that 565 and the 528, and I put them both onto this little foliage stamp. So I'm going to put the 528 on the top, okay, of that little foliage stamp. Make sure it's adhered really nicely. Okay. And then the 565 is going to go on the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it's going to look really cool when you stamp it down. So you're going to get these dual tones when you stamp it down. Okay, and then if I want to go in with, you know, single colors, I can. Maybe I just want the lighter blue in here to kind of bring over to that edge, and maybe a little bit more light blue sort of in here. And maybe a bit down there, and then I can come back in with the 565 and put some darker branches or little leaves in here, not branches. You know, up in here, maybe kind of in the center, maybe just a little bit on the edge. So you can use both colors or you can use just one color. It's up to you what you want to do. It's a fun way to sort of be like, okay, you know, how do I want to stamp these leaves? There's really no right or wrong way to use it, okay? If you just want to use one color on this, you can. You totally can. There's just, this is one of those lessons that, so you want to make sure it's adhered nicely. Sometimes I get dust on these, and then I just put a little bit of water on it, just that back side, or with a little wipey, and then it sticks perfectly again. It's just sometimes that dust will get on it, you know, if you're cutting lots of paper, you know, the little particles will kind of fly around and you know, stick to your cling cushion. Okay, a bit more in here. And then I feel like that's a pretty good amount of leaves. So I've got that dark and that light in there. And now I can start adding some water to my grass and to my leaves, okay? So I'm gonna start with the number 4 brush and grab that and come in and begin to dab these leaves. Now you can see how the colors really pop together. You know, you can see now we got some dark, and then we're gonna go back into the light. But when you're using the masking tape, you always wanna make sure you bring the color to the edge, because that's really what gives you that, that feeling that it's, you know, in a square, because you're sort of creating that line when you bring the ink to the edge of your composition. It doesn't have to be, you know, all the way on every, you know, square millimeter of space. But if you have it on most areas, you're good to go. Most areas on that line, I should say. See how I'm making sure that ink is concentrated right at that line to make sure. And here we go. Okay, I'm gonna pull just a bit more out because we're gonna put in a little bit of a sky up here, and I want that to just blend really nicely, okay? All right, now I'm going to take my teeny tip, the number 1 brush, and begin to pull out some of this grass. Little bit of grass here. And I don't want to go too far up on him because I do want to still put in some shadows. But I can pull out that grass, and I can always come back in after and put some more over the top of him. Okay, 565 on my palette. And 528. So I have, zoom out just a little bit so I can get these colors in here. And I'm gonna put a bit more color into my fawn. So I'll mix these two. You can see that when you mix the colors, you have now a third color, right, to work with. And if you sort of stay within the family, you can find that depending on the ratios that you use, you can get a lot of different variations of these colors. Okay, he's got a little shadow down there. And then grab a bit more here. And I'll use just water to kind of blend out that color because I do want to kind of bring it up. And then I want a nice bridge of white on his little muzzle there, or his snout, whatever you want to call it. So as I kind of build this, I'll sort of bring that color up on both above his eye and below his eye up to that space on his nose. I don't know if you can see that, but you want a nice straight line right at his nose because that gives you the appearance that it is a little elongated sort of nose or snout. All right, just some of that 565 now coming in. Darken up that little bit there. Same thing in the ears. Okay, a little bit more of that mix. And then, remember what we say to kind of smooth it out? Just water. Just water to smooth out those lines. You can see that line, it makes an impact, you know, on this little guy. I can put just a little bit of color on this side, a little bit at the base of his ears. This little brush is so nice for this. It's so nice to be able to put this color in, you know, in a small space. And, you know, I didn't used to use the number 1 very often, just because I would, you know, sort of like to stick with the number 4. But the 1 has just been so great. Oh, I hope you guys can see what I just did without my hand being in the way. Okay. Deborah, not sure if I missed this, but how did you decide which shade to paint the deer or whatever, and then the other areas like light or dark? How did you choose? So there was no sort of you know, defining thought. I just thought, okay, if I'm gonna do the deer in the 565, then I don't want to surround him with more 565. I want to put in like that lighter blue to really set him apart from his, you know, surroundings, to really put, you know, the focus on him. So that's really was my thought. I was less concerned about, you know, the foliage up here, you know, and then down here I'll use a really dark blue to come in with the vines. So all I was really doing is just kind of thinking about separating the colors enough to make an impact with the little fawn. But that's kind of how I did it. I tend to sort of try to separate, you know, some of the colors so that it doesn't feel, although it's monochromatic, it doesn't feel boring. And that's kind of how I chose. There's no like right or wrong way to do it. You know, a lot of people will do a monochromatic with just one color, and they will just lighten and darken that one color, and it's just as amazing. They just might use more contrast. And for me, I just used a different blue. Okay. So I'm going to take that little Twintone now and put a bit more darkness in here. And really darken up that inside. Okay. And then on his little nose, we got to darken that up, right? A little shadow in here. He's got actually a little arm right here. Hope I'm still on screen. I just like to come back in just a little bit and put in some of those, no problem, Deborah. Put in some of those lines I kind of lost. Now, he does have a little arm right here. A lot of times, I talk about this a lot, but a lot of times I'll sort of forget about limbs and such. So, you know, when you're doing it, just sort of think about what you're painting and what that little animal or person or whomever, what elements they need painted. Okay. So now I'll put in a little bit of a sky before we do our vines down here in the corners. So I'm just going to take just a little bit of that 528 and mix it again, just the two of them. Just a little bit of a mix. The ratio doesn't really matter. We have quite a bit of blue sort of in the top here, so I'm not going to do much. I do want to sort of bring it to the edge so that I get a nice line on that edge. But it doesn't need to be overwhelming, the sky. And this is nice when you have the Post-it tape because you don't have to think about how far out can I go. I mean, you're just going to the edge of the Post-it tape. Okay. I can put a little bit of that 565 just very lightly right at the base here. Just a very light wash of that 565. Just to give them a little bit of a space to lay on. And then I can take my vine. So that's just the vine from Foliage Set 1. Okay. Deneen, yes! Almost like the sun is dappling through the leaves. Yes, absolutely. Isn't it fun how, you know, if you don't leave the highlights, it also won't look like that, right? So not only is your highlight, you know, creating a multi-dimensional, you know, element like the tree here, but like Deneen said, it kind of allows like the sun coming through. You know, maybe he's sort of in this brush and the sun might be like shining down on him. You know, it'd be kind of cool to do, you know, kind of keep that in mind and maybe do a couple rays in here or something. That would be neat. Good thoughts, Deneen. Okay, 565. I'm going to take and ink my little vine here. And I'm just going in with that 565. I want some nice dark leaves in here. So it's almost like you're looking through this forested area and you've come across this little fawn having a little sleep, little nap. I like to have some lighter elements in here. So as you sort of run out of ink, you can still use that stamp to add some more dimension in. Okay. Now I'll take my number 4 brush and I'm going to just kind of dab these a little bit. Bring that color to the edge. Same thing here. Bring that color to the edge. And then I do need to bring a little bit of color to this edge. So I can sort of pull that out of the vines and get that nice color so that our little square, our rectangle, looks like a rectangle when we take the tape off. All right. And I'm going to take my Twintone again and just sort of come back in with this to just define our branches a little bit more. You don't have to do this. It's sort of an artistic preference if you want to. It's kind of fun to, you know, draw in your little branches if you want. And then we'll take that 565 again with our dots this time. And let me just kind of clean off the pink from my dots, because I don't want all of a sudden pink to be in my composition. So you want to just make sure if you're doing this and you're using other stamps that you really clean them well. Because, you know, the introduction of another color is going to throw off your monochromatic. So 565, and I don't know if I mentioned this in other videos, but I do like to use the dots with darker colors. I just think they sort of come out a little bit, you know, the impact that they make is a little bit stronger when it's done with, you know, some darker colors. Maybe I'll put a couple darker ones in here. You can come up on the edge, but I will say a little bit goes a long way, and you can overdo the dots. Just keep it simple, you know, just a few here and there, and then the second you think is that enough, just tell yourself, yes, that's enough, and I'm gonna move on. Okay, so now we will do the reveal. This is always a fun part. So we have our first line, and you can see why we had to take that color all the way to the edge, right? And then, again, and then one more, and there she is. Pam, the dots look like insects. Yes, they do. They totally do. I love that. I love it, love it. They're kind of like, who is this little creature in our territory? Okay, and then I'm going to take my Twintone and just give it a little sign here. Okay. All right. So that is Monochromatics, you guys. We did these two little projects, but I made one more with oranges, and I thought I would show you this because it is more fall, more Thanksgiving. So if you do like the traditional fall, you know, Thanksgiving colors, I did do this one as well, and it is a it's more of a garland as opposed to a you know, just like a scene. So you could do this on a card and put a little sentiment with it, you know, pop up a little sentiment or whatever you want to do. But I used different types of oranges in here, and I thought it came out really cute. So, you know, this is just another way to do the monochromatics if you want to. And it's a lot of fun. So what I recommend is picking out, you know, the color that you want to do for your monochromatic and putting all of your other colors away because it forces you to just use those colors, even if it means you've got to mix them or whatever. And I want to also mention it's okay to use the twin tones. So even for my pink one, I did use a little bit of that brown to stamp the pumpkin, right? And to do the darker elements on my pumpkins, even though it still looks really pink, right? Because This brown has quite a bit of warmth in it, but I mixed it with that 837 on here. So even though it did have a little bit of brown, it was nice to kind of strengthen the color a little bit. I did the same thing with this little pumpkin one, okay? So these are just a blast, you guys. You could totally do them with any of your projects. You know, just get creative and just think about, you know, the different sort of projects that you've done. And, you know, maybe you could try these little, you know, different color compositions and just challenge yourself. If this is a challenge for you, or if you've never done it before and you think, ooh, you know, could I do this? Challenge yourself. It's really fun to sort of get out of your comfort zone and try something new. And I think this is a great time to do it if you have not yet, okay? This is also something really fun for super beginners. You could get a little pot out and your foliage and your flowers and just do all purples. You know, dark purple, light purple, and anything that is normally like a green, you know, a stemmed, anything like kind of like we did with our branch and our berries. The stem is always going to have a darker color than the leaves or the berries, okay? It's just a really good sort of tool to keep in your mind. The stems of anything is always going to be the darker color of what you're using. Everything else can kind of be however you want to do it, but I do feel like that darker stem really does sort of set it apart from everything else. And if you did a light stem and a dark berry, your berries would sort of look like they were floating. Like they wouldn't have anything to sort of hold on to, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and switch the camera back around and I will say my goodbyes. Okay, hello. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have brown hair. You guys, this was such a fun tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you try it and post and, you know, challenge yourself and get yourself out there to try something new. You definitely can do it. I believe in you. I know your guys' talent.